Yes, this is George Briscoe. I'm trying to make a payment. I'm alright. Just woke up. Yeah. I'll go in at 2. Yeah. Yes. Um, yeah, but let me know before so I can transfer. Yeah. 375, something like that. I can't remember what the last four of it is. Yeah. 1 second, let me transfer it. You said 248.81. All right, hold on. All right, it's ready for you. One second. is 05 280. All right. All right. All right. That sounds perfect. Yes. You too. Bye bye. Yo, what's up, yeah? What's up, yeah? How you feel, player?
I'm not one to believe in ghosts or supernatural. Never pay for your internet again. Discover the Ultralink free Wi-Fi router, built with the same technology used in space stations. Ultralink captures your internet directly from satellites, allowing you to connect at high speed anywhere in the world, even in remote rural areas. It features a system that projects the internet signal in literally any environment, whether inside your moving car, at campsites, construction sites, or simply at home to connect your family's smartphones and smart TVs. And the best part, with Ultralink, you'll never have to worry about expensive monthly fees and contracts again. Just buy the router once, and you're set with free internet forever. To get your router and enjoy unlimited internet, this story is from one of the janitors at my job. I'm not one to believe in ghosts or supernatural stuff. I've worked nights in hospitals for years, and always figured the stories about strange occurrences were just that. Stories. But what happened to one of the janitors where I work has me really unsettled. This happened a few months ago. Doug, one of the older janitors who works graveyard shifts, was mopping the basement floor at around 4 a.m. The basement isn't used for patients. It's a storage area, and, well, the morgue is down there. So, no one ever goes down there unless they have to, and it's always eerily quiet. The fluorescent lights make it really eerie. Anyway, Doug was down there doing his usual shift when he turned around to grab his mop bucket. And there, standing by the storage room, was an old man. Doug thought it was just some lost patient wandering around, which isn't all that uncommon at that time of night. People sometimes wander out of their rooms in a daze, but there was something off about this old man. He was wearing a hospital gown, but not the usual ones we give patients. The gown was plain white, old and worn out, definitely not one of ours, and he was carrying an old-fashioned IV pole. Not the modern plastic bags, but a glass bottle IV, the kind you only see in old movies. Doug was puzzled, but being the nice guy he is, he just waved at the man, thinking maybe he was confused and he needed help. The old man didn't respond in a way Doug expected. He just stared at him, hollow-eyed, then gave him a faint nod before turning away. That's when Doug noticed this small, strange detail, the faint smell of smoke in the air. He didn't think much of it at first, assuming it was just a malfunctioning light or something. But when he turned back to keep mopping, he felt that prickling sensation on the back of his neck, the one you get when something isn't right. He turned around again to help the man, but when he looked toward the storage room, the man was gone. Doug didn't panic at first. It's late. It's easy to get disoriented. Maybe the guy had just shuffled away and Doug hadn't noticed. But what got to him was the air around where the old man had stood. There was a cloud of smoke lingering there. It wasn't like someone had just smoked a cigarette. It was almost like it had appeared out of nowhere, hanging in the air like it didn't belong. He stared at the smoke for what felt like an eternity. It didn't move, didn't dissipate the way smoke should. It just hung there, stagnant. And then it was gone, vanished, just like that. Doug wasn't sure what to think. It's not like he's someone who would jump to conclusions, but the whole situation felt off. So he did what anyone would do in his shoes. He finished his shift and went home, but he couldn't shake the strangeness of the encounter. A week later, Doug mentioned it to another janitor who'd been working the night shift for years. The guy didn't even blink when Doug told him. He just said, "You're not the first one." Then he went on to tell Doug that others had seen the same thing. A frail old man with a glass bottle IV, wandering around the basement. Some had seen him just standing there, staring. Others had caught glimpses of him in the corner of their eyes, only for him to vanish when they looked back. And the worst part, some of them had also noticed the smoke, the same as Doug, the same exact thing. I've heard stories from other people, nurses, security guards, and other janitors about strange things that happened during the night shift, especially near the morgue. It stays with me to this day.
Listen up. If you've been injured in a recent car accident, what you do next can make or break how much money you get. Here's the biggest mistake I see people make.
That's it. It's crazy.
I was hired as an overnight resident counselor. The house was a large brownstone, very old, but kept in good condition. I noticed that when I went in for the first shift, other co-workers looked at me like, "Good luck. I happen to be doing the client's laundry." Machines were on vacation.
Where's my phone?
Where you left it at? Got it out the car, along with my car.
I would ask our nurse and manager. When I told them the above,
For what?
they looked at me. And the nurse asked if I knew what the house was prior to the home for our clients. I said no. The manager told me that she has had extreme difficulty keeping staff because the house was a former funeral home. Also, there was a murder of an overnight worker. Her ex-boyfriend came to the house and wanted to talk to her. She let him in. He murdered her and dumped her body across the street in a wooded area. The man in the orange jumpsuit was her boyfriend in his prison jumpsuit. The other men were owners of the funeral home. That bastard attached himself to me, and I brought him home with me. My 8-year-old daughter saw him in our living room. I yelled at him to leave and never come back. I saged the house and did a salt ritual. I asked for a transfer to another group home. This happened in Cohoes, New York. Mohawk Street murder. I never went back to the house. This is going to be a long post, but I need to share this with someone. Maybe someone out there has experienced something like this. My father wasn't a model parent by any means. In fact, looking back, I've started to realize just how little I truly knew about him. My mother tried to shield me from who he was, and I don't think she knew the extent of how evil he was. For most of my childhood, I was told that my father worked as a contractor. He owned a small company that did home renovations, mostly for the type of clients who didn't ask too many questions. I didn't think much of it at the time. He was always away, working on different projects across the state. He wasn't around much, but when he was, he'd be angry, unpredictable, and hard to deal with. My mother would always apologize for his outbursts, and eventually, I learned to avoid confrontation when he was home. As a kid, you make excuses for your parents, right? My older brother, he was 8 years older than me, always had a more strained relationship with him. But my younger brother, who was a year younger than me, never seemed to catch his attention. It was just me and my older brother
Literally.
who had to endure the brunt of his anger. My father's drug use wasn't something that was immediately obvious to me. I was still young when it started. He had always been a bit of a drinker. But around the time I turned 14, things started getting worse. It was hard to explain at the time, but one day, my mom finally stopped pretending that everything was normal. She sat my brothers and I down and told us about his addiction. It wasn't just alcohol. It was drugs. I'd noticed the missing money, the anger, and the fights with my mom, but I didn't have the capacity to connect the dots back then. When I was 13, he practically disappeared from our lives. He started taking odd jobs in and out of the state. His behavior became erratic. Sometimes he would show up for a few days, and sometimes it was months before we heard from him again. My mom never divorced him because she said God didn't approve of divorce. But it was clear that their relationship was abusive. It was always on again, off again.
Yeah, that's where y'all dumbass motherfuckers where you're at.
I was used to him being gone. My older brother seemed to resent him more as the years went on.
I gotta listen to
My younger brother barely knew him, honestly. But there was always that feeling that maybe this time, when he came back, things would be different. It never was. His visits were just a reminder of how cold and disconnected he had become. Over the years, as I grew up,
Not
my mom
retarded. I
began
guess
to
it's
trust me
mainly
with
just
things
like
about my father
to hope it would get
that she
better.
previously thought I was old
And
enough
it's
to
just like
understand.
constant failing.
But in
Never did, and
2018,
it's just like
something happened that still makes me sick to my stomach that I was definitely not prepared for. One night, I received a call from my mom. She told me that my father had been arrested, and it wasn't for something small. In another state, a woman's body had been discovered behind a motel. The body had been hidden under a pile of trash, and something about it didn't seem right. The police were quick to connect it to my father because she had been seen with him just a day before. At first, I thought it was just another of one of his bad decisions. Maybe they'd been doing drugs together and something went wrong. Maybe she overdosed and he freaked out. But that's not what happened. The police report was disturbing. The woman hadn't overdosed. She had been bludgeoned to death with a heavy-duty tool like a wrecking bar. The coroner had found that her skull had been smashed in with the tool. They couldn't confirm the exact details, but everything pointed to the possibility that my father had killed her. They didn't have the murder weapon, but the evidence was damning. He was arrested on suspicion of murder, though somehow he was only charged with improper disposal of a body,
You'd be
and his
arrested for murder.
sentence was
And you may
shockingly
find out you're not.
light.
Alright, so the arrested under
That was it.
suspicions of murder
I
means
couldn't understand
that they
how
picked you up
someone
on
could
a
get away
lesser
with
charge
something like
than they're
that.
trying to hold.
I couldn't let it
Well,
slide.
that's
My brothers and I stopped speaking to him.
Yeah.
We had no
They'll be like, well,
choice
we
but
don't
to
have
cut
enough
him out
evidence
of
for this,
our
but we picked
lives.
him up on another
He
charge
was
soon.
furious
Yeah,
about
but
it.
he's suspected for murder.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have $100,000
Still
bail
spoke to him.
for
She was even still working through the
DUI.
divorce at the time. It confused me. It still hurt
That's
me
the
to
dumb
think
shit.
that
Like
she
the
could still
dude,
stand by
the
him.
dude got locked up
After all
yesterday
he had done to
on
our
first
family.
48 Dude Kenny.
A couple of weeks after
He
the
got
arrest,
jammed
when
up
everything was
because
unfolding in the news, I went back home to spend time with my brothers.
went
It was an emotionally
and parked
difficult
his
time for all
truck
of us,
at
and we tried to
the
keep
repair
each other
shop,
company. We
which
drank
was
a bit. And
75 yards from
I
the
shared
murder
something I
where they
kept to
found his
myself
wife's
for
body.
years.
And
It's a
this
story
is like
I
the
never
later
really
one that
thought
day.
much about.
And they had the
until
police
now.
run the vent
But
of the
looking back,
car when it was
it
set
chills
there.
me
And-
to
and-
Oh, I remember that when they were saying some
My
car
mom
was
had made
parked
my
across
dad give me a ride to school
the,
one day
in a
as her
place,
car
and he
was in
thinks
the
he's
shop.
got that to do with the murder.
Yeah,
So we
they ran the
took his
vent and
work
happened to
truck,
be the same
and I
car
saw
that was
something
sitting in the man's front
strange
yard.
wedged under the passenger seat.
And you ain't
It
gonna
was
have
a
that
black
many
leather purse.
issues,
I remember noting that it
coincide
looked
and
fancy
shit.
and
Back,
nothing
back,
like my
back,
mother
back.
would have.
Your car there, your wife's
much of
car
it
there,
at the
she
time.
shot in the head.
After all,
Your previous wife was
was
shot in
just
the
a
head.
kid.
She was, you
remember
shot her house
picking it
up
up and
before.
turning it over in my
all that
hands,
shit gets
trying to figure out why it was there. But I
Like,
didn't ask him
And
about
before he
it.
covered it up
I
good,
assumed
when he
maybe
did the
it was
first one,
something
he
from
couldn't
one
get
of his
fired.
trips. And
This
I quickly
time, you read
forgot
about
That's
about
that
it.
retard with
But
the
years
10 years
later,
later, then he
when I
killed his baby
mentioned this
mama.
story to my brothers, the blood drained from their faces. My father spent most of his time out of town, had garments that seemed to be from other women for decades, and has now been linked with the dead woman. He has never faced the consequences of what he's done. I believe he's taken the lives of at least 2 women, and it's possible that I may have witnessed evidence of that when I was a child.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time since then trying to make sense of it
They
all.
don't need to
I've tried to
live
convince
in
myself
luxury
that maybe
of
I'm
having,
overthinking things.
what do they call it?
That maybe
3
it's all
cots and a hot.
just a coincidence.
3 hots in a car.
Yeah,
3 shots in a hot. Oh, shit.
you know what I meant.
And the truth is, I don't think I'll ever really be able to move on
Yeah, no.
from what I've learned about him.
They're gonna be. Okay, I killed somebody. I'm still gonna get fed 3 times a day, and it's pretty decent food depending on where you go. I guess that's what the vast majority of people say.
Yeah.
And